Spiritualism took many forms. There were the famous Fox Sisters of New York and the famous Rochester Rappings that helped to forge the spiritualist movement of the mid-19th century. Well-known author Arthur Conan Doyle, a member of the British Society for Psychical Research from the 1890s, began to give public lectures on spiritualism beginning in 1917, and, following his death in 1930, Lady Conan Doyle organized seances to contact him. She didn't appear to have much success though, as Arthur has so far not answered any calls. The newspaper clipping describes a canine ghostly encounter. The story goes that a group of men and a fox terrier were sitting around the smoking room in a country house. Suddenly they heard heavy shambling sounds of an old dog and the jingle of his collar. When one of the men called to the old dog, he was informed that it had died. There are, as Mr. Elliot O'Donnell said in his lecture at Chelsea, many recorded cases of dog ghosts. Mr. Andrew Lang selected as specially worthy of note a story told upon the authority of a naval lieutenant. He was sitting with several other men and a fox terrier round the smoking room fire in a country house. Presently the heavy shambling footsteps of an old dog and the jingle of his collar were heard coming upstairs. "Here's old Peter," said one guest. "Peter's dead," whispered his owner. All of them heard the sounds passed through the closed door and patter into the room. The fox terrier bristled up, growled and pursued the invisible across the carpet. From the hearth rug sounded a shake, a jingle of a collar, and the settlement of a body collapsing into repose. An unfortunate tramp caught a ride on a circus train that included a herd of elephants. The man began to feed one of the elephants some grass and, following upon this success, turned his attention to another elephant. However, the first elephant, either through hunger or jealousy, was upset and seized the man by his arm and broke it. The man was freed, but fearing that he was in trouble and evidently under the influence of liquor, he disappeared before medical care could be provided. The herd of elephants which came through Pittsfield Friday with the circus caused a broken arm to an unfortunate tramp. He had stolen a ride on the menagerie train, and when it stopped at the West Springfield stockyard, he jumped off and pulled some grass, which he gave through the car to one of the elephants. He was about to repeat the process on another elephant when the first animal, either through hunger or jealousy, grabbed his right arm with his trunk and broke the bone near the elbow. The man finally broke loose and fell by the fence which borders the road at that point. James Emery, a brakeman, saw him and, having secured assistance from the lobby, was going to take him to a physician, but the man, who was evidently under the influence of liquor, feared they were going to arrest him and broke away and disappeared down the Agawam Road. In Richmond, Virginia, two hired hands had a disagreement about a woman to whom they were both paying attention. The men tried to settle it through a free Virginia fistfight, and when that did not resolve things, they initiated a duel with pitchforks. This account from the National Police Gazette does not say how the duel ended, but another account noted that the fight ended when Bob plunged his pitchfork into Dick Knock's chest. Knock was expected to die from the wound. Mr. J.T. Norris, a resident of Northumberland County in this state, employs a number of Negro hands on his place, and among them was one Dick Knock and a man known as Bob. On Sunday morning last, these two quarreled. It is thought about a woman to whom they were both paying attention. Later in the day, the two met again in the stable and renewed the quarrel, and finally proceeded to a free Virginia fistfight. As neither seemed to gain any particular advantage over the other, they each seized a pitchfork and began a desperate onslaught upon the other. The fight lasted for nearly quarter of an hour. In 1922, a woman in Elizabeth, New Jersey, tried to have her neighbor arrested. She claimed this individual impersonated an apparition to scare her into moving. The judge refused to take the woman's complaint seriously against the neighbor, but Police Sergeant Riley volunteered to investigate further, declaring he spends his spare time in the study of psychic phenomena. At the request of Mrs. Delia Myers, 26 West Scott Place, the police of Elizabeth, New Jersey, started an investigation yesterday to determine whether her home is haunted or someone, having read of the ghost mystery of Antigonish, Nova Scotia, is merely playing spook in an effort to frighten her. Mrs. Myers says she heard a scratching noise at the door of her apartment about 2:30 o'clock this morning, and on going into the hall saw a ghostly figure stalking through the hallway. Mrs. Myers wanted to swear out a warrant for the arrest of another tenant with whom she has had trouble, expressing her belief this individual impersonated the apparition to scare her into moving. She declared the person's head was covered with a sheet. Refusing to take a complaint, Judge Otto advised the woman to get someone to assist her in capturing the spook. Police Sergeant Riley volunteered, declaring he spends his spare time in the study of psychic phenomena. A cat who lived on the ship St. Paul disembarked in Liverpool, England, and decided to see the city. Unfortunately, the cat, who was named Joseph Chamberlain, missed the boat when it went back to New York. It caught a ride on a second ship, and when Joseph Chamberlain arrived in New York, he ran down the gangplank and went straight to the St. Paul, which was on its way back to Liverpool. The American liner St. Paul sailed yesterday afternoon for Liverpool, carrying 240 passengers and Joseph Chamberlain, the ship's cat. Joseph, when the St. Paul was in Liverpool, decided to see the city, and judging from the scratches on his nose, he did the town all right, but he missed the boat and was brought back by the New York. He was the first one down the gangplank when the ship docked yesterday. Without waiting for customs examination or to inquire for messages, Joseph raced for the St. Paul. He arrived just in time to start back to Liverpool. Greetings, my loyal supporters. So, what did you think of that? I tried something a bit new there with the old newspaper snippets. If you enjoyed that, please let me know under the comments there, and I could do some more for you. I quite enjoy reading these old newspaper snippets myself. Yeah, I used to have lots of fun. Years ago, my sister bought an old house, and there was layers and layers of old linoleum. This house had been sort of run down, and they totally restored it. And during the restoration, we pulled up the old layers of linoleum, and underneath were all these pristine newspapers from the 1930s, early 1930s, 1931 to be precise. And I gathered them all up. I've still got them actually to this day. I gathered them all up, and on rainy Sunday afternoons I would read them. I would pour through all the stories and the adverts, and just found them fascinating. I still do find old newspapers fascinating, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little presentation. And I always try at least once a month to bring you a video. In December there it wasn't possible. I was so busy. I apologize for that, but I do like to show my appreciation for your support, so I do try at least once a month to bring a video. And yeah, so I will continue to do so. Just an announcement about a subject that I brought up on YouTube about fraud bots here on Patreon, and I'm sure some of the fraud bots are listening now as I talk about this. Yeah, it's an annoying thing, but the option is to have upfront payments, which means the videos cannot be watched until the amount is debited from the credit card. That would be an option. I don't really want to do that. Most of my supporters are true and good people and good souls and are not doing that. But every month there are an increasing amount of these fraud bots where the payments are declined. Now, I do know that some payments are declined because of the fault of the bank who has thought that it's some sort of fraudulent activity or something. And that's why if a payment is declined, I send out an email to that person saying, please let me know what's happening. And I give them a month. I give that person 1 month. And if I do not hear from them in that month, I block that account. I block them so they cannot anymore donate money or view my channel. Yeah, so what I want to say is that please, if you get this message, just respond to it. It's okay if you wish to delete the payment for whatever reason, if you can't afford to anymore or you don't wish to at the moment. You may want to again in the future. If you let me know that, and if I've at least received one payment from you, that's fine. I won't block you. It's the only reason I'm doing this is to respond to these fraud bots, and that's the only way I can do it, is by blocking them. So, and the other option is, of course, the upfront payment. I would love to know your feedback on that, whether you think that's a good idea, that I do the upfront payment. Are you agreeable with that? Apparently Patreon, and I'm going to post what Patreon wrote to me about that. I will post that very soon, within the next few days, and you can read it through and tell me what you think. It's irreversible. Once I change it to upfront payments, it's apparently irreversible. So please let me know what you think. I don't want to annoy my supporters. That's the very last thing I would want to do. But as I say, it's a bit annoying, these people who are just taking advantage, and they're ruining it for you out there, the true and loyal supporters. And I want to bring these videos solely for my supporters, not that someone comes along and pays a buck and doesn't even pay it and then steals my video. That's not very fair. But anyway, I've talked about that before. Let me know. I'm not going to ramble too much now. I'm going to get this video out and up to you. And yes, once again, I just want to thank you all for watching, for being my supporter, and catch you next time, my friends. Bye bye.